inspecting the very haunted Summerwind Mansion. We'll hear all about that after another call from Jim Pyre. And remember, you can visit him at jimpyre.com. Again, thanks, Jim, for calling in. You can also call the ITF hotline 702-997-2007 and leave comments, questions, or, of course, your very own encounter story. So there have been a lot of wonderful advances and changes to Into the Fray lately. So not only can you become an ITF insider, gaining you access inside my personal radio layer, where I do videos and read listener letters and have extra episodes, giveaways, things like that. We now have Into the Fray merchandise available. Now you can go to my website and click shop, and there you also have the Into the Fray Insider option, plus the option to visit the store. There you will see mugs, shirts, racerback tanks for women, anything basically that they sell, you can put the ITF logo on, so that part is up to you. And please, if you guys are purchasing this stuff, make sure to tag me in the post. I would love to see the products out there. Again, visit intothefrayradio.com and click shop. And without further ado, let's hear from Jim and then Craig.
Hey, it's me, Jim Pyre, and I figured you liked my horrible bad luck house story, so I would give you another one. This one is actually from, I had been tasked with writing some articles for a Canadian magazine that went out of publication. I do that. I'm the kiss of death. But anyway, it was articles called, Pyre's Tales of the Paranormal, because my stories generally are more like Scooby-Doo than something from The Exorcist. Anyway, I've been interested, and I've been hunting, and I've been studying the paranormal, the Fortean for a very long time. And when I deal with people who are quote unquote skeptics for, science, I just kind of, smile and nod because, I've seen things, in my line of work, I deal with a lot of skeptics too, because it's all about what you've seen and what you haven't and how you can prove it. And, when they tell me, I don't believe in ghosts because I've never seen one, I tell them I don't believe in Pluto. Same kind of thing. Oh, but they're pictures. Yeah. Anyway, one of my friends, we'll call him Devin. He was merciless, is hammering me about it, and finally I convinced him to come along and do an investigation with me and my crew members. There were about 4 of us, so he was the 5th. This took place in Ohio. It was a normal home, and I'm sure the woman does not want to be recognized, so I'm going to call her Jane. Jane's house suddenly became very active because her mother had died, and instead of sort of moving things about in her mother's home, Jane took all of her mother's things and put it in her own basement. So shortly after that, there were bumps. She heard talking. She heard a lot of just the classic weirdness. So she called. We had a little office, so we had a phone number. And this is the time when the TV shows were in full, swing. So, people wanted to know. At least they wanted maybe I can get on TV. But Jane was really more than anything. And I don't want to get really philosophical, but more than anything, when you do these things and you're not on TV and you don't want to get a bunch of, paranormal tourists, you just want somebody to go in there and say, hey, you know what? You're not crazy. I see the same thing you do. It's there. I can't tell you about, how do I get rid of it? How do you do this? How do you do that? But the comfort you give somebody when you say, I see it too, is really tremendous, in my humble opinion. So we were down there in Jane's basement, and Devin was down there, and Jane was out of the house. She was at a friend's house, which was across the street. And Devin was merciless and just beating us up, saying, obviously it's grief. Maybe the woman had too much caffeine, yada, yada, yada. And about 3:00 in the morning, we heard footsteps. We heard footsteps upstairs because, like I said, we were in the basement, and the footsteps were coming toward the stairs that led to the basement. Well, Devin, being the consummate gentleman, he went over, turned the staircase, looked up because he thought it was the homeowner and he wanted to let her know that we were in fact down here. And then we all heard it, the classic, "Get out." I've heard "get out" so many times, or "you're going to die" so many times. It's like, hey, you. But for poor Devin, this was a new experience because it wasn't TV, it was real life. And again, for poor Devin, who at this time was, he's about the same age I was, so late 30s, he suddenly became a marathon sprinter. If you could be a marathon sprinter, because he had parked 2 or 3 blocks away, and he had made that within, 2 minutes. He was gone. It was like watching a cartoon. You saw the little smoke, and he was gone. And for the rest of the night, he stayed in the car. It was running, and the lights were on. So even to this day, I enjoy telling him how skeptical one can become. So that is my story. You could probably find it on Amazon. It's probably much better written because this is me just rambling. But anyway, take care. Hope you enjoyed it. Bye.
On this edition of Into the Fray, I have Craig Nehring, and he is of the Fox Valley Ghost Hunters. And his project right now, though, is to try to resurrect the once grand mansion back into a bed and breakfast. And the name of this mansion is the Summerwind. And it is on the West Bay Lake in Land O'Lakes, Wisconsin. Welcome, Craig.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me.
So, Craig, before we jump into the amazing history of this place, and we were chatting a little bit about this before we started recording, it's got so much history, and I really hope that you guys are able to resurrect it back to as close to original as you can. But this Fox Valley Ghost Hunters, why ghost hunting? What got you into this whole thing?
Actually, the Summerwind Mansion kind of got my start there. I used to live in northern Wisconsin. My dad built the house up in Minocqua, which was only about 30 minutes away from the mansion. So when I was going to high school, all the parties and stuff would say, hey, let's go up to the Summerwind Mansion that's in ruins and see if we can, find something interesting. It's supposed to be haunted. So when I was younger, we used to go up there quite a bit and investigate, hang out on the property. We would see stuff we couldn't explain, like shadows moving about the mansion, lights that would come on inside the mansion, even though there was no electricity in there. It was already in ruins pretty much in the beginning of 1980.
So, I didn't realize that. That's very cool. So the Summerwind Mansion itself basically made you get into this whole subject. I didn't even know that.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, back then I was young and, there wasn't even any ghost hunting shows really on TV in the 1980s, or if there was, I don't remember them. I was too busy fishing or doing outside activities up in the North Woods. So probably in 2005, I moved down to the Fox Valley, Appleton, Oshkosh, Green Bay, Wisconsin area. And I was driving semi, and at that time, all the ghost hunting shows started popping up on TV. And I thought it'd be really cool to start my own team. So designed a website, had it created by a local website hosting place, and got business cards going, and we had one of our very first investigations in 2010, and it actually appeared in the newspaper on Black Friday of 2010. So it kind of got my start into the ghost, and I've been going ever since then.
So you guys were only 30 minutes away. Now, you were talking about the lights, and we needed to probably explain to everyone what this mansion looks like at the moment. And after you do that, I would like to talk more about those lights. That's pretty interesting. So yeah, just describe what kind of situation this former Grand Mansion is in right now.
What it's in right now is there's no mansion there. The only thing that's left there are 2 tall chimneys, the big, huge front stone foundation. It's got some walkways that go into the basement. Of course, there is no house, so it's an open basement now. But as in 1980, if you can get your hands on a Time Life magazine of 1980, I think it's the November issue, has Walter Cronkite on the front of it. I have a copy of it. You can pick it up on Amazon for like $5. It lists Summerwind as one of the top 10 most haunted houses in the United States. At that time, there were no windows on the house. It was in decay. No electricity, wasn't really of any value too much even back in the 1980s.
Yeah, so when you guys were going out there and you saw the lights, there, like you said, there's no frame, no windows, anything like that. So were these lights just moving and dancing among the trees, or were they static?
No, it's actually like someone turned on a light right inside the house.
So would you guys go closer at that point, or is that when you're like, okay, let's get out of here?
No, we went closer, went inside and stuff, didn't find anything. You'd hear noises and stuff. Even I remember going out there like a couple weeks after that with some friends, and it was like an eerie night, the rain, the mist, like a mist falling down. Got out of the car and you got this really bad feeling that you really shouldn't do anything except get back in your car and leave.
So you have seen shadow figures in that mansion? And you were talking about the feeling when you got out of the truck, but when you got closer to the place, did those feelings exacerbate at all?
A little bit. I mean, it just gives you the creeps. Not so much anymore. In the beginning, it did. I'm used to going out there quite a bit now just to investigate, and we still get some crazy things happening even without the house being there.
Before we get into some more of the activities in the house and what you guys have found, let's give the background of the history, because it has an absolutely fascinating history. The second I read that first email with the list of the former residents and what happened to them, I'm thinking this would be a fantastic place to do all the work that you're doing, and I see why you guys are working so hard on it. So if we could jump all the way back to when it was first built in 1914, if you wouldn't mind, Craig.
Sure, not a problem. Actually, the house was originally created by John Frank, who created West Bay Lake Fishing Lodge back in 1914, and he created it as a fishing lodge. I did find a newspaper article dating back to when it was a fishing lodge that you could spend the night fishing there and catch fish on the lake for only $5 a night. It's kind of interesting.
That's awesome.
Now it'd probably be like $150 a night or more. 2 years later, West Bay Fishing Lodge was sold to the Secretary of Commerce, Robert Patterson Lamont, who would end up being under Hoover. And rumor has it that Hoover actually stayed there on the property, but it's not 100% confirmed. Now, Lamont employed Chicago architects Thomas Talmadge and Vernon Watson to redesign the fishing lodge, and they made it into a huge mansion. Some reports stated that it had 32 rooms. Of course, looking at the mansion even back then, it's hard to really configure that the thing even had 32 rooms, but I guess I don't know what you count as rooms back then. I mean, are you counting closets? Are you counting little, hallways or what back then? But in today's standards, it probably wouldn't be considered a mansion. But back in those days, it was big, and then it had some outhouses, which not outhouses, but houses that were outside of the property that had like the slaves' quarters and the maids' quarters that weren't attached to the house.
So Mr. Lamont, he's the gentleman that they thought someone had broken in while they were eating dinner, and he went to fire at this, what he thought was a person, and the bullet went through and just hit the wall. And is that what made them move out of the house?
Yeah, the servants always said that they thought they had, ghosts walking around the house, and they told Mr. Lamont that, and he didn't believe them. And like you said, he saw a ghost like come up through the foyer doors, and he pulled out his black powder pistol and shot 3 times at the ghost, not hitting anything. And the bullet holes actually remained in the doors till the 1980s. They were still there when we were going there. Oh. And Lamont, actually, what he saw was a woman with a long flowing white dress, long black hair, and that woman has been seen throughout the years as well on a couple other occasions.
Oh, so, okay. I just got that tie-in. I just realized that one of the later paragraphs that I read was something that, is it Arnold? It must be the last name Arnold.
Yep,
they were okay. They were renovating a room in the house, and now there was in fact the skeleton of an animal and the skull with long black hair that was found by his daughter in a crawl space. In a crawl space,
yeah. They had located a spot in the wall inside that they couldn't get into, so they asked their daughter April to crawl inside, and she crawled in and screamed that she found a a body in there that still had hair hanging from the skull. And it was, she came out screaming. Of course, it was never reported to the police, and supposedly later on returning, that corpse was gone. And I should mention that Summer Wind was actually not even Summer Wind. It was actually Lilac Hills still at that time. It didn't actually change to Summer Wind until a little bit later.
Lilac Hills, is that some time with the foliage around there? Or?
Yeah, we go up there quite a bit, and if you get up there at the right time of the season, it smells so awesome with all the lilac trees around.
That is so very creepy with finding the body back there that ties in with the very same apparition, right? With the black hair and the white flowing dress. So is there any mention anywhere of what might have happened to that skeleton? Like, did they take it out and bury it somewhere, or did it burn with the...
Yeah, no clue. The reports are that it disappeared when they had crawled back in there later to check on it or something, and it was gone.
Oh, the very same family.
The very same family.
Oh,
yeah.
Goodness gracious.
Later on return that it was gone. I actually located a woman, and she had some stories. She was in her 90s. I'm not sure if she's still alive now. This was probably about 10 years ago. And she had lived on the other side of the lake, and as teenagers, they used to row across the lake with one of her friends. And at one time they were rowing across the lake, which is West Bay Lake, which is half in Michigan and half in Wisconsin. And they would row to the other side of the lake. And it was a really bad storm coming up on them, so they were like really scared. And they saw this lady in white with the long flowing white dress and dark hair waving at them. Now, they didn't know anything about Lilac Hills / Summer Wind at all at that time. And the lady was waving towards them to come to the shore, to come out of the rain. So they rowed up to where the lady was, and the lady kind of said, hey, come my direction. So they followed her up into what would have been the mansion of Lilac Hills. And the woman said that she sat down with her friend in the living room, and the lady walked up the stairs and disappeared right into the staircase. And they were so scared that they ran back outside. By that time, the storm had stopped a little bit. So they jumped in their boat and rowed across to the other side again in quite a hurry. But the next day, she said that she was so intrigued with what was happening that they wanted to go back again. So again, they rowed back towards where they saw the lady, and there she was again, only this time she's waving at them to stay away, like, leave, don't come. And they were kind of upset that they couldn't, come on the property. Well, the next day they read in the paper that a caretaker kind of went on a frenzy and started shooting at people on the property. So here she's trying to protect them. And later on, they learned that the place was owned by Lamont and that it was Lilac Hills. Is
there any mention as to who that apparition would be in any old reports of the house?
There's reports of a female named Lucy, a woman named Lucy, that was supposedly buried on the property. Now, when I used to go there when I was younger, there was a cross in the woods with the name Lucy on it, with like an outline of almost like cobblestone or some type of field stone. Now, today it's gone, and it looks like at some point somebody tried to dig something up, whether they found anything or not. A lot of vandals have been there throughout the years, so just walking on the property, they trespass and steal whatever they can off the property. But Lucy's mentioned in a bunch of different places, but it's hard to track exactly where she came from. At one point, it's named as Lamont's daughter or something, but he never had a daughter named Lucy. And other reports are that somebody was shackled to the basement, and the current owners actually found shackles in the basement in one of the walls when they first took over the place. So it's hard to figure out exactly who that woman was and how Lucy ties in with it all.
Yeah, they did keep slaves and servants, right? So maybe Lucy was one of those folks.
Yeah, that's possible.
Did you ever see Lucy on your many trips out there?
No. The craziest thing is, and I'm not sure how old Lucy was when all this happened or whatnot, but we captured a voice on the ghost box when I was out there one time saying Lucy, and then just shortly after that, another voice that came through that says, "Little girl dead is your friend." But very interesting EVP or ghost box voice. So,
is Lucy then? I mean, the mortality rate was a lot lower age back then, right? So is Lucy maybe early teens, or is she literally like an older child?
I was thinking possibly teens.
Yeah.
Because they referred to her as a younger female or woman, so.
Right. Oh, wow. So it said Lucy and little girl dead is your friend?
Yep. It was like telling us where to go. Like we were standing on the steps and it said girl, and I'm like, where's the girl? And then it says field, and I said, where? And go forward or something. It was like giving us directions to something, so.
And did it end up anywhere near where you found that cross?
Not really, no.
Yeah.
Of course, maybe it was a field, back in.
But that's true, right?
Yeah, there were no trees there really, so. And the house actually, after Lamont had it, actually remained vacant for like 20 years until the summer of 1969.
That's an awful long time, it seems, for a house so beautiful. Why was it vacant for so long?
I know there was a family, the Kiefers, that owned it for a long time, and they didn't do anything with it. In fact, I'm not even 100% certain that they even stayed on the in the house at all during that time. They had another place. It actually had 80 acres originally. Now I believe it's down to about 3 or 4.
No kidding.
Yeah. It's kind of cool if you Google Summerwind. It's actually listed on Google Earth as Summerwind in Land O'Lakes. You can actually find it on Google Earth just like that. And in one direction, it's just all forest and woodlands. There's a couple houses close by to it, but for the most part, it's just woods and the lake.
So, Craig, what else was going on even prior to 1914 to this house being built? What are some of are there native tribes that were running through there, or what else is maybe going on that land to make it such a powerful place?
They believed it was Native Americans that had a lot of wars out there, fights out there. The current owners had stated near the end of the property there are burial mounds. Indeed, there are some mounds of some type out there. I can't, without actually getting some type of equipment to show what's there. There's something I know you can do to find out if there's anything buried there, but I know it's quite pricey.
Yeah, it's kind of like in the old Curse of Oak Island show, right? They have the backing because, they have all this equipment they have to drag out there, like the sonar scanning and all the fancy Garrett equipment and whatnot. So, yeah, who knows what's in those burial mounds? That's fascinating. What is the the Indians that were out there?
I don't want to say the wrong tribe. I know there's a bunch of different ones.
Yeah,
so.
No problem. Yeah, there is.
Cherokee, I believe, possibly. I think I read there's so many summer wind videos out there, and I think they all mention a bunch of different ones. So,
do you guys also do any videos when you go out there, and things that you post and share?
Yeah, actually, we do a lot of work with even another team, Northern Wisconsin Paranormal Society up in Rhinelander, Wisconsin, and they actually captured a shadow coming out of the basement and kind of walking up and around the hill. They captured it on video. It was really neat. We've done some other videos up there. We actually had 2 of our investigators up in the woods where we thought Lucy might be buried, and we put them kind of on isolation. You put the girls out there to see if something will happen to them, and you're not around them. We gave them walkie-talkies and stuff to make sure they were okay. And all of a sudden you hear them screaming, so we all ran up there to see if they were okay. Here a raccoon had fallen out of a tree and landed right next to him in the dark.
Of all the times, right?
Yep. But that wasn't even the funny part. The funny part was we had a camera, pointing at them. Oh. So I went back over the cameras and captured a voice saying, "I pushed it," right when the raccoon fell. Yeah.
All right. Well, there you go. I like that. I pushed it neat. Said. And are you guys usually catching the EVPs when it's doing forgive me, I don't know all the names of the equipment, when it's scanning the different radio frequencies?
Yeah, we do some of the ghost box, but I'm big into the normal EVPs, the ones that you capture without the ghost box.
Okay.
Because then because a lot of people are a little
recorder.
Rather than trying to say, well, okay, that was a radio station. No, it wasn't. It was a radio station or something like that. Right. So, and we do a lot of other EVPs. We got some pretty cool ones. One of them that says, "Damn it, I'm being bad," was captured out there with us walking around. Another one called me a name when I saw a deer, and I almost jumped out of my skin. So,
what did it call you? Do you mind saying it?
I'm not sure what I can say on the air, but it called me an ass, and then you can figure out the rest.
Just clear as day.
Yep.
Well, they're kind of jerks out there, huh? They like to scare folks, and they think it's hilarious.
Yeah, but at least the little girl is my friend. At least that's what it said, so that's always good. Other things that happened, well, after the Hinshaws had it, her husband Arnold, they used to have an organ in the house, and they played the organ to all hours of the night. And he stated that if he didn't play the organ to all hours of the night, the ghosts would get really mad at them. Now, not only did they find the body in the walls, but they also reported seeing shapes, shadows, lights flickering in the hallway, sounds that just wouldn't stop. So they eventually, Arnold Hinshaw, the one that played the organ, eventually went mad, and Ginger tried to commit suicide. So that was pretty much the end of them being at Summerwind. So they pretty much said, hey, we're done here. So they pretty much left it the way it was and left.
And Mr. Henshaw was the one I read that he went to work and his car burst into flames. What do you make of that story?
Yeah, I haven't had any problems with my cars or anybody else's cars bursting into flames. So I don't know if maybe that was just, added into the book to make it a little more, because there is a book called The Carver Effect, actually, which was written by Raymond von Bober, a popcorn vendor from Chicago, and he was actually related to Ginger and that, so he decided that he wanted to make it into a bed and breakfast. And at the time he was trying to make it into a bed and breakfast, the rooms would change in dimension from one day to the next. He had the same problems with the lights flickering, shadows. He wrote the book The Carver Effect, which is actually very hard to find. I actually got a copy from his son, an autographed copy, so it's pretty cool. But he claims, and maybe this will come up with the Native Americans for the tribe there, it was the Sioux tribe in the area. And he had a dream that a Great Lakes explorer named Jonathan Carver had a deal with the Sioux tribe, and it granted them 1/3 of northern Wisconsin, and that it was buried somewhere in the foundation of Summerwind. Of course, I like to look into a little history of everything. And when I started looking into the history, I found out that Jonathan Carver, the explorer, never made it that far north to the Land O'Lakes area. He stopped short of that. I'm not exactly sure where, but I read his journals, and he didn't make it that far. So for something to be buried in the Summerwind Foundation, and not only that, they stated that they found the deed that was granted to Jonathan Carver, and it's actually in a museum in England. But there's still people to this day, they go up there and they try to dig through the ruins. They're not even supposed to be on the property, but they go up there, they take the stones, it's getting worse and worse each year. I mean, for whatever nice, unique, foundation is still up there, it's starting to dwindle down to next to nothing. Now that's where something else comes in. When Raymond von Bober decided he wanted to turn it into a bed and breakfast, at the time it was called Lilac Hills yet. He was walking around out in the front of the property on the driveway that leads up to Summerwind and found the piece of wood laying on the ground. On that piece of wood, it said Summerwind. So he changed the name to Summerwind. And from then on, it became Summerwind.
So where do you think that piece of wood was from?
I have no clue. I mean, there's a couple houses that were down from it, too. In fact, someone just called me a couple weeks ago and said, hey, I have the shutters from Summerwind, the original shutters. Would you like them? I'm like, that would be cool.
Are you thinking in your head, though, you went and stole those, or how'd you get those?
Yeah, I thought about that, too. And I from time to time, I'll find stuff on what those collectors things, like on Amazon, the collector series things on there. I'll see stuff from Summerwind, like dolls from Summerwind, which I highly doubt they got a doll from Summerwind.
Right.
But bricks from Summerwind, they're selling for like $300 for a haunted brick from Summerwind. I'm like, oh my God, really? I mean, if that's the case, I'll take the rest of the bricks and we'll build this thing now because I'll have enough money if I sell like 50 of them.
I mean, when you have a personal connection with the place and you love the place, it's got to be hard to see things like that, especially when you're trying to rebuild it and these folks keep going out there and taking what little you have left of the original place. Yeah.
Which that brings me up to how I got in touch with the owners. I mean, and that took a while. I didn't know the owners back when I was in high school. So I was digging for some stuff, and it probably took me a good 4 hours to find the owners. They have a place in La Crosse and stuff, and their names are Bab and Harold Tracy. and they purchased it in actually 1986. Babs told her husband for her anniversary present she wanted something different. So what does he come back with? He comes back with the deed to Summerwind for her anniversary. Neat.
Very cool gift. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, very neat. And already and then it was in ruins as it was, and they had it in '86. And they actually told me a story of when they went up to the property one night late at night, and the only thing that was giving them light was the moon. It was like a full moon, and they walked up towards the property, and of course they didn't stay in it because there's no windows. But when they got up closer to the property, they looked at it and they said they've never seen anything before in their entire life, but they pretty much turned around and started walking the other way. They said the house looked as though it was breathing in and out, like exhaling and inhaling, like it was alive. It just creeped them out, so they actually ended up going back up the drive and said, nope, we're done for the night. They had it till Father's Day, technically. Well, they still have it now, but the house ain't there. In 1988, on Father's Day, lightning struck it twice and burned it to the ground. For some reason, lightning made it through all the really tall trees and struck the foundation and burned it down. Now, there's reports a couple weeks prior to it burning down saying that the town was going to wanted to raise the property because too many kids were out there partying and, getting drunk, doing drugs, stuff they weren't supposed to be doing. And the parties were out of control. Now, I did talk to someone that didn't want to state his name or anything, but he had worked for the fire department back then, stated that if you really look into it a lot further, you can tell that it was a controlled burn. So whether someone accidentally burned it down or if the fire department or the town decided to say, hey, we burned it down, but we're going to blame it on the lightning.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, because probably most likely the owners weren't there. They were probably down at one of their other places in La Crosse or something.
Okay, that's terrible. I didn't know about that part. What do you think, Craig? Do you think that it was the town?
I don't think it was lightning.
Yeah.
If anything, maybe somebody accidentally burned it down while having a party out there.
Right.
But with all the tall trees, I highly doubt that it was even struck twice, let alone once, by lightning.
Yeah, who reported that it was struck twice by lightning? Isn't that an odd occurrence anyway?
That's usually, you usually don't strike twice in the same place.
Yeah, it just seems like the guy was like, just tell him that the lightning hit it twice and put it in paper, right?
Not once, but let's say twice.
Right, really handle business there. That's terrible.
Yep. Their dreams of actually making it into a bed and breakfast were kind of lost then. And Mrs. Tracy just talked to her a couple weeks ago. She just recently had a stroke while she was down in Cancun. Oh. So we were all been praying for her and hoping that she gets better soon. So she did make it through that, and I guess she's having a little hard time communicating, but she is, recognizing people, and I had talked to her on the phone, and she seemed kind of happy when she heard my voice. So
I'm sorry to hear that.
Her dream was to see it rebuilt, and thanks to Joshua for actually finding me as well. Mm-hmm. He actually got me in touch with the original blueprints dated back to 1916 or so, all the way down to the skeleton key. Now our goal is to get funds, to the amount of just building the mansion part. We're not looking for the extra houses on the property, just the mansion to be built into a bed and breakfast where everybody can come and enjoy it and actually be able to stay there in what we hope will still be a haunted mansion, bed and breakfast. I even got people right now trying to sign up for it, and it's not even in the plans yet to be rebuilt yet. So,
yeah, I was telling you, I'll go sleep there right now. I don't care if it's only 2 fireplaces. So do you think, Craig, that given its history and all of its activity, do you think then that starting to rebuild it and hopefully you don't have the same problems that Von Bober had, right? With everything changing, all of the plans, the dimensions were changing. Do you think that redoing everything and resurrecting it, and I know you guys are going to do it as close to original as possible, maybe, do you think it will exacerbate the activity, or do you think it'll die down?
I think it will step up the activity. I think if they have a place to roam rather than just... I've actually asked... used ghost boxes there and asked them if they want it rebuilt, and they said yes, please rebuild Summerwind. I've even asked them where we're at, and you'll hear a voice come through and say Summerwind and stuff like that. But a lot of people I mean, we've had a viral thread that went viral last year for a while. Everybody was commenting on it, and a lot of them would say, "Don't build it. You know, it's evil up there. You know, the ghosts don't want you to rebuild it." How do you know that? You know, don't tell me they don't want us to rebuild it. That's just your opinion, and you know, everybody has a right to their opinion. But a lot of the stories that come out of there, everybody thinks it's evil.
Why
every
is
time
that?
we've gone, I don't know. Maybe they've read the book with the cars on fire. Maybe they had their own experiences going up there. But a lot of people nowadays, they watch a lot of too much TV shows where every ghost is evil, dragging somebody down the stairs or,
It's
you know,
all
throwing
demons,
them.
right?
Yeah, it's all demons. So what we're doing is trying to rebuild a mansion to have demons come back, and that's really that's not the case.
Right. You're like, oh yeah, we're just drawing pentagrams all over the walls and doing satanic rituals, right?
Oh, they're doing that now. The people that are trespassing. We found a couple. I don't know if they're done correctly, but we hope not.
Yeah. I do think that if folks actually know what they're doing for that sort of thing on the other side, that's probably pretty scary stuff.
Yeah, I mean, we've covered many private investigations where they had said, "Oh, we just got done using a Ouija board and some weird stuff happened, and now we can't get rid of it." So,
yeah. And speaking of that, as many times as you've been out there and your team has been out there, has anything followed you guys home?
not that I'm aware of. I mean, I do enough investigations that some of my investigators have things that randomly knock when they're sleeping on the wall or stuff. No, it's not. It's not dark entities or anything, just knocking or anything. Or I had a voice that said hello to me once when I had come back from a school. A little girl, I heard her say hello while I was working on the computer one night. But nobody was really ever negative towards us. So if there is somebody or someone coming back from Summerwind, they're not bothering us at all.
Do you guys do any sort of, especially as of late, with if there is satanic stuff going on the grounds, is there any sort of protection or ritual or rites? I don't know the right word for it, but do you guys do something like that before you start and end an investigation?
Yeah, we have a shaman on our team. She does shamanic healings and stuff for us. I have sage and stuff like that to protect ourselves and stuff. I mean, we've, even to this day, activity up there has actually, I wouldn't say picked up. I don't know it from back in the, 70s and how the activity was, and then to compare it to what's been going on today. But we've been up there many times as a team, and 2 different teams have now accounted for this, Northern Wisconsin Paranormal as well as us. Rocks that just come out of nowhere, not huge rocks like the size of pennies. Were landing all around us, hitting us on the shoulders and stuff, or landing next to us. You'd throw a rock into the foundation, something would come back and land close to you. And it happened for like an hour and then it stopped. Now, I thought maybe it could be the neighbors messing with us, but there was nobody in the woods. We had thermals and there was nobody out there. Other people said it was birds, but birds don't fly at night. I mean, not crows. So, for the most part, it would have had to been something supernatural, and we weren't the only ones that found it. It was the other team as well that it happened to them. And then us getting ready to go to bed, there was another section, probably about a half hour, where rocks were falling on our tents and stuff. Just little pebbles, just coming out of nowhere. They weren't bugs. I mean, we're in the middle of nowhere with no trees around, so.
Because you guys were actually able to pick up what was just thrown at you, so you know it wasn't bugs.
Yeah, we were picking it up. Yeah. In fact, one bounced off one of my investigators' hands, lands on the ground. She picked it up and says, "Oh my God, this just hit me." So. Did
they look, different or strange at all, or?
No, just round like a penny, and we couldn't figure out. I mean, there's rocks up there, but really there's not a lot. So, I mean, it's mostly grass, and you'd have to really dig in the ground to get a rock, so.
Of course, my Bigfoot friends are going to go, well, there's just Bigfoot out there. They'll just try to explain it with Bigfoot, right? Yeah,
it's funny. We had a investigator dressed up like a Yeti, though, not Bigfoot. Dressed up like a Yeti, and he's walking around out there, and the neighbor's out there cutting some wood. Oh, boy. And he had just put the chainsaw down, set it down, and turned it off, and he's standing at the edge of the what do you want to call it, the line, the property line of Summerwind, and starts making a groaning noise, and the guy turns around and goes, "Oh my God, you scared me."
Oh man.
Funny.
Yeah, you gotta watch out where you wear that thing, right?
Yeah.
End up getting shot.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Like, so you guys do, when you go out there, are you take in the tent and you stay in for a few nights, or what's the usual process?
Yeah, last year we've had we've had public events. In fact, we got some public events this year as well coming up here. We actually got a public event in June, and that's actually on the 24th, where people can come out and actually investigate with us all night. Then we got one July 22nd and August 19th. And last year we had too many last year. We had 5, but they sold out in 48 hours. There was 50 people per event. It went viral off a thread, and actually the only thing to sell out faster would have been Star Wars last year.
That's fantastic.
When we go out there, unfortunately, and I understand why it's a law, but in the state of Wisconsin, even anywhere, I think in the state of Wisconsin, maybe certain areas, maybe not, but in the state of Wisconsin, if you have any more than 4 tents, even if it's on your own property, they consider that you need to get a camping permit and have sanitation and everything else come out, which is kind of weird because I've known many families that have like a big camping fun thing in their backyard, but evidently any more than 4 tents and you need permits. So we couldn't put
in your own backyard.
In your own backyard, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And I looked it up. I looked up the law in Wisconsin, and it was anything more than 4 tents, and there's permits needed. So we couldn't put everybody on the grounds like we've done in prior years. At least we put some people on the grounds. But now we put our own tents up on Summerwind, and the rest we have camp at a really close campground, which is probably better off for them because they got nice running water and stuff there compared to what they have at Summerwind. So they were happy with that, and we camp out there for like a Friday night's our night, and guest night is Saturday night. So we do an investigation. We will usually bring another paranormal team from another area in on the first night to investigate with us to give other local teams a chance to come out there with us. And
I was saying the whole Sasquatch thing in jest, just to be joking around, but is there other activity out in that area?
There's definitely an abundance of wildlife. I mean, we've slept out there many times and heard some strange things in the woods. You'll hear wolves, or I think it's coyotes in that area, howling in the pretty darn close. Probably we had one that actually made a kill, like maybe less than 200 yards from us. And then they all go as a pack, and you could hear them all around. And I got friends standing with telling me not to turn my back towards, just keep moving around. You don't want to turn your back towards anything in particular. We've seen bear up there, and there's another place that's really close there. They call it the Paulding Light, the Spook Light. I'm not really going to get too much into that because it's kind of been debunked by many other groups.
Yeah.
But we've gone up there, and I've seen something that walked out of the woods when we were doing a little bit of a hike that it just didn't make sense. It had like green eyes, and it what was higher than we were, and we were on a little bit of hill, so maybe it was, down below us, but it seemed like it was taller than us, and it just kept going, walking, and we swore that it was standing on its hind legs, and we just went the other way. We ran as fast as we could, and that was before I even got into ghost hunting. We were just out there and messing around. I'm like,
no kidding.
Nope. Yeah.
It had green glowing eyes?
Green glowing eyes, yeah.
And this was, so it was middle of the night. You saw the
middle of the night. We didn't have a flashlight on it. It just walked out of the woods like that, and it just seemed weird to us, and we ran back the other direction. We never stopped, so.
And it was bipedal.
Yep, and it was a ways away. That would have been almost, it would have been in if you're going up into Summerwind and you go a little further north, it would have been just over the time zone, pretty darn close to the time zone change of an hour, which might make things a little bit weird in that area because of the time change. I don't know.
That's a very interesting thought. I've never heard anyone pose that. I was going to say, and I just made a note of that because that's time change zones. That's awesome. I was going to say, or ask you, sorry, my notes are distracting me. Is there any, I think I just brought this up on my last show. People are probably so sick and tired of me saying this, but is there any limestone or granite or boulder fields or anything around the lake anywhere in that area?
Not so much, but Summerwind, the entire huge front porch and walkways are all made of cobblestone. Probably which took a long time to do in itself. And then you got the lake, of course. It's usually not, people refer paranormal activity to water, but it's not really a moving water. It's more of a, just a lake. There is reports that there were tunnels from Summerwind. I'm not exactly sure what they're made out of. I haven't seen them, that go somewhere from Summerwind out to the other side of the property, onto somebody else's property that now lives there. the person that owns the property did say that they did had a tunnel out on their property, but neighbors around there are a little bit perturbed over the fact that over the course of 30, 40 some years, the people that come out to trespass there don't know where they're going, so they trample through their property, asking for directions at 1 a.m.
Oh,
they're pretty tired of that. They've been telling us, we hope you guys get it rebuilt, because at least then there'll be some, pretty much people, won't be trespassing much anymore. They'd have to make reservations to stay there. I mean, you're still trying to get people to go in there, but
right. Yeah, that was something I jotted down, was what do the neighbors think of this place? So they're literally just tired of the trespassers, but do they traipse onto the property, and do they have any evidence of hauntings or ghosts or anything?
They don't talk about it much. We've done some investigations up there where the neighbors would pop over and watch us do our thing and stuff. Mm-hmm. They don't, both properties on both sides, there's one little property and then one bigger property, and I've seen the people with the bigger property and met them, some nice people. They got their places for sale now on either side of the mansion. I'm not sure if that has to do with or if they're just looking for a change. There's a bigger mansion down the way that, they're not too fond of us, and we try to keep the peace, but we've been there before where they've come up and walked right onto the property and said, hands me a trash bag and say, here, make sure you pick up after yourselves this time, which is funny because we always pick up our stuff. We never, in fact, we go up there and clean up the property. Right. The locals come and they trash it and leave their beer cans and soda cans and everything else laying there, but the neighbors blame us.
Well, because you're not the ones hiding. It's everyone else coming there at night and they can't see them, but you guys get blamed for it, right?
Yep, but it's funny. They, one of the neighbors came up one summer, and this was probably about 2 years ago. One of the neighbors came up, and then another neighbor came up and says, do you have permission to be on the property? I'm like, well, do you have permission to be on the property? You're standing here right now. And they're like, no. I said, well, I know the owners, so I know you don't have permission if you don't even know who the owners are. And they didn't even know who the owners are, even though they live there. Right.
But, so besides the super grumpy neighbors, on the other side, both of these properties next to Summerwind are both for sale right now?
Right now, yeah. There's a small property that looks, and I met the one with the small property. She was a school teacher, I think, from southern Wisconsin or something. And the property's so small, it looks like it might just have a living room, one bedroom, and then a tiny little bathroom. It's like really a little summer cottage, so that's for sale. And then one of the bigger houses that looks really nice on one of the sides is for sale.
And how close are these folks? Like if you're literally standing in the middle of Summerwind where the mansion should be, can you see these folks? Yeah, the one to if you were standing on the foundation looking out towards the lake, the property to the right is less than probably 75 yards. It's not that far away. And then the one down the hill is probably a good football field, but it's down this really steep hill. So I mean, those folks must see. And probably at this point, they're assuming it's all just trespassers. And if it's not you guys, probably just kids messing around or far worse, the satanic ritual folks. Yeah. I wonder, I mean, not, like I said, not that they probably go down in the middle of the night to actually confirm, but they must see interesting things coming from the house, right? And when maybe it's not even people.
I'm sure they've had stories throughout the years, but they just don't want to tell us because I think everybody else has asked them the same thing. Right. So, we try to make it, where they don't bother people. We actually had, put signs there, putting signs to where our guests could come and how they could follow in from the main road because it's a ways off the main road. And we would give them directions into the Summerwind property and we had put signs up for them. Well, the neighbors would take the signs and steal them and hide them on us and stuff like that. And I confronted them one time. I said, I'm trying to help you guys so that they don't drive down your driveway while trying to find the mansion. So we came up with a new thing where we gave them step-by-step directions and did some paintings and stuff, some colorations of ribbon rather than putting a sign saying here is Summerwind because the owners probably or the neighbors are probably thinking, well, now all these other people are going to find Summerwind too, which I can understand that, but they probably know when we're there because we usually use a chainsaw, we clean up the property, we mow the grass. So
that's got to be tough though, kind of feeling like you're battling the neighbors a little bit and just trying to keep the peace, like you said.
Yep. And it is zoned for commercial, so
no.
No, the property is zone commercial, which is good because that's the only way to do a bed and breakfast. It'd have to be zone commercial.
Ah, I see. Okay. Well, so does that mean then that somehow it's been rezoned for the neighbors' properties and that's why they have to sell?
No, there should still be normal. That should be just Summerwind, that's zone commercial. I actually had asked the town. I said, "What can we do up there? Can we do a bed and breakfast?" They're like, "Yeah, you can do a bed and breakfast. You can do a bar. You can do a nightclub." I'm like, "Nah, that ain't gonna. I'll do a bed and breakfast, a bar. There ain't gonna be nobody there in the middle of winter." It's on a private frontage road, and the neighbors, it has an access right, right to access. So I'm wondering at the time of the rebuilding, if it hopefully gets to that point, that will we have to blacktop the road for the neighbors, because now it's going to be used a whole lot more. So if it's a private road, they're probably going to want something done to that to put that back there.
I mean, being on one of the lakes in Wisconsin, you guys do get hammered with snow. You get the old lake effect, right? I lived in Ohio for a couple years, and, you watch the news and they're like, well, sorry about that. The 12 inches last night, it was the old lake effect, and we can't predict that. You're like, oh.
Yeah, I've been up there a couple times in winter, and it is plowed for the neighbors, so I definitely know it can be plowed up there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm almost thinking also there's a close snowmobile trail, too, that if there's a way they can get that as a stop-off point, might bring business in during the winter as well.
That'd be a cool way to get there.
Now you got the snowmobile noise, too, which might be a distraction for the neighbors as well.
Yeah. You just got to get cool neighbors out there.
Yeah.
Cool neighbors that are into this kind of thing. You're like, come over anytime. Do a ghost
Yeah,
hunt.
definitely.
Craig, is there more activity when you've been out there at night or during the day, or does it not matter?
It doesn't seem to matter too much. The EVPs are coming all times during the day and the evening, but at night it seems like there's more activity. I'll actually tell you two stories of, one story, it's actually combined into two, of how the ghosts really watch out for us up there. We were up there probably about 3 years ago. We were on the front porch. Of course, there's no electricity. There's no house there at all. And we were using K2 meters that track, the electrical currents, the pulses, the electrical. And we were doing a ghost box session. And we had about 3 or 4 of us up on the foundation. And I heard it say 3, 2, 1. Now I thought I was going to get pushed or something. Someone says starts counting down. It's like everybody hang on to something, just in case. And it said 3, 2, 1. And it said, go get them. Vindictive. Coming up the driveway. Run. Hurry. And we're like, what in the world? And at the time, all the K2s are going off. So we knew that something was around us talking to us. So I told one of my team members, why don't you run up towards the driveway? Because our cars are up in the driveway. It's hard to see our cars beyond the hill. So he ran up there, and here there's 3 kids trying to break into the back of one of our trucks. And he caught them before they broke in.
Wow.
And they ran off the other direction, dropping their beers in the process. I don't drink beer, so we just kind of put them on the bonfire to watch them explode later on for some cool trick. But it was kind of cool that the ghosts warned us. So we had gone back up onto the top of the porch and thought it was really interesting what had just happened. A little while later, something goes, 5, hurry, run now, coming up the driveway. They didn't say vindictive, they just said 5, girls, guys, run, go. And I'm like, what? No. I said, is this impossible? There's no way that the spirits here are telling us again somebody's coming up the driveway. So my friend ran up there because he said, well, it happened the first time. I'll run up there again. Got to the end of the driveway. It said 5 on the ghost box. Here there's 3 girls and 2 guys standing at the end of the driveway contemplating whether they were going to come up or not.
Oh my goodness.
Just to check out the property. And, I remember last time I was there, which was this past summer. The past summer, just, we're not in summer yet. But I was up there and I mentioned on the ghost box, I said, hey, are you guys going to warn us if somebody's coming out the driveway like you did last time? And a voice comes through and says, maybe.
Maybe. We'll see. If you deserve
we'll see.
it. Yeah.
Yep.
Do you find that if it's you and this particular man and this particular woman, vice versa, another different permutation of your group investigating, that there's more activity?
Yeah, for some reason I get a lot of EVPs, even ghost box voices that constantly say my name, my last name, and they love me. A girl ghost would say, I love Craig. Craig's here. It's always something to do with me, and then they're always saying nice things. I mean, I never really had anything say anything. So one of my team members, I don't know, he just must be something negative about him. They're always telling him to die or
Oh my
something
gosh.
like that. Yeah.
You're like, dude, you're on the no list with these
Calling
folks.
him a butthole or something really bad. So
Poor guy. He's like, I don't understand. They love you,
yeah.
Greg. Yeah, I wonder why they don't like that one gentleman in your team. Like, what
Yeah,
is
I
it
don't
about
know.
him?
He's been, he doesn't provoke because we don't really believe in provoking because we like to believe that spirits were once people too. But he'll sometimes try to get them to say stuff like, hey, you know, if you do this, you know, I'll do this. You know, if you don't do this, I'm going to come after you or something like that. Something to that effect. Not actually provoking, saying, you know, really nasty things like you see on TV to him. But I think they like the approach. I taken an approach of, hey, you know, how are you? I missed you. Would you like to talk to me? Type thing. Compared to some of the harsher, you know, paranormal researchers tend to ask the questions that they're not going to get an answer to, and I'm a little bit more, I don't know, I'm nice to them.
Well, might call that guy butthole too. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I kind of jotted this down earlier, and I hate to backtrack, but it's staring at me on my notes. You mentioned the cobblestone. You said that was on the porch, or what was the porch?
Yeah. Part of the chimneys are even cobblestone.
Interesting.
The front part. And as well as the whole entire porch. It's got some red brick along the top, which is starting to disappear from people walking away with it. But, there's some iron inside when they put the mortar together, they put the iron, casings in there, the rods.
Is there any, I mean, this is grasping again at reasons why the place is haunted, but do you know where that cobblestone came from? Like what the history is of those actual pieces of stone?
That I do not know. Yeah. That's one of the sections that we wished we could be able to keep, but Masons have told us in the past that it's probably next to impossible to keep the chimneys. You'd have to knock them down. You'd have to knock the foundation down. My idea was to, you know, take out the middle of the porch and try to keep the sides of the porch intact and maybe, you know, redo it a little bit with the stairs and then drop the house right in the middle where the porch was and try to save that section just to have something saved.
Even during the reconstruction here, they will have to take all of that down. And you can repurpose some of those, right, in the new building, but I'm sure part of your heart is going to break to knock that down. Yeah,
I'm sure there's a bunch of news stations that would cover the fact that the chimneys are coming down. So,
yeah, because those have stood since 1914, correct?
Yeah. I mean, it's funny how many people want a brick from there, and you know, everybody's like, well, if you take it down, sell bricks for $5 a brick or something. You know, something to add to it, or
people are. That really angers me, and I've never even seen the place. I've only read about it, and I already love it. You probably have half of a mind, not that anyone has the time or money to do this, or the lack thereof, but you probably just want to sit out there just to protect the property. What little is left of it.
Yeah, I wish I could. I mean, we always do events out there each summer, and we have to put caution tape up around the foundation to make sure nobody falls in. And we actually had one person fall in last year. She had slipped. She was okay. She's been on many more events since then. But the porch section, there's people digging away at the porch thinking that there's underneath the porch, thinking they can find a deed that's not really there. And I can tell the porch is getting weaker and weaker every year. So at some point we're going to have to section that off and not be able to go up there anymore for the sake of, our guests' well-being.
And how often do you get out there, Craig?
Usually about 3 times a summer. If we don't do an event out there, we go up there as a team just to hang out. I mean, you hear the loons on the lake. It's majestic, and just the nature all around it. And, not even if you're not even up there for anything paranormal, it's amazing place.
Do you hear or see something? Is it more, okay, so let me back my question up a little bit. I know you guys get a lot of incredible EVPs from the sound of it, no pun intended, but do you also see the shadow figures mostly every time that you go out?
Yeah, actually last year, and darned if I can get any of my guests that have been up there to send me pictures of what they captured, but I've had like 3 or 4 people up there on the events last year that while taking pictures, it would capture another person in their picture that wasn't there. And they'd come up to me and say, "Oh my God, look what I just captured," and stuff like that. And we'd see shadows, and I was actually doing a ghost box session, and there was a girl had said there's a girl standing right behind you, and everybody saw the shadow. I turned around. By the time I turned around, she was gone, or I didn't see it. But we've heard groans up there, like a moan or a groan, come from the front of the foundation. And I had a voice recorder at the time of the groan, and the groan actually didn't appear on the voice recorder as a groan, but it appeared as a little girl calling out, saying "mommy." But it was heard as a groan through us, but it actually appeared as a voice on the EVP saying "mommy."
That's sad to think of any children that are left behind, right?
Yep.
And what about deaths actually physically in the house? I know that, I'm not going to remember her name unless I rattle the papers. The woman, Ginger? Ginger. She tried to commit suicide. Now, was that in the house?
I believe so. I don't know. I believe now, if I read correctly, that she had just passed away not long ago as well. And for real, but yeah. Well, yeah, if someone passes away, it wouldn't be a ghost, but yeah.
Yeah, so there wasn't actually any documented, no one died on the property?
No, not that I'm aware of. No, I don't know.
It was always Lucy, right? I mean, we can't figure
Lucy,
out this,
where she came from, man.
The skeleton.
And she appears many times in different stories, but not exactly sure. Like I said, there was a gravestone out there early on when I was going there in the 80s with the name Lucy on it. Now, that was back then when were allowed to bury people on the property as well, too, whereas now I don't think that's okay. Unless you use their ashes and scatter them somewhere.
Yeah, which how would you ever find that? You wouldn't. So the people that are reporting, hey, there's something in my photo. It looks like a woman. Was that Lucy again?
No. Sometimes it'd be like a man in the photo. There's a police officer's wife that actually took a picture up there, and she shared it with me. Didn't want me to share it with anybody else, of course. But it actually had her standing by a fireplace, and by the fireplace, it looked as though there was a little tiny child that she was holding on to, but she wasn't holding on to anything. It was actually looked like there's a child in her arms, or at least coming out of the fireplace. It was very weird and I still look at it to this day like, okay, is that real? But, it's coming from someone credible that, the police officer said, hey, this is my wife's photo. It's real. I don't want you to share it because it just, everybody's going to call us a bunch of liars. So.
Yeah, cops try to stay away from that. I can't blame them. So with that photo tied into the EVP that you got, was it the little girl saying hello, you said?
Yeah, very possible.
Any idea who that little girl might be? Not
sure. Like I said, I'm not. I don't know if, like I said, who Lucy or how old she even was or how old she appears to be even later on.
I keep going back to that skeleton and thinking of seeing, a skull with hair still attached. And then the next week, unless the dad just went, oh my gosh, I have to get rid of this thing right now. It's in here with my family, and he took it out and didn't tell anybody.
Yeah, there's so many different things that happen. I didn't actually read the whole book of the Carver Effect. I know there's a lot of stuff that happens in there.
That's interesting. Why is that book so hard to find? There just wasn't that many published, and it's an older book?
It was an older book, I believe, 1979 or so. And then all the libraries up in northern Wisconsin, when you go to try to find it, it's gone. Someone took it and didn't return it. I actually got, like I said, I got a copy of it, and supposedly they went back into print again for a little while, and now they're not again. But I did look on eBay, it might have been a couple months ago, and there was a couple on there, but they're going for like $250 or more. I had a person call me. They're like, I hear you got a copy of the Carver Effect. I'm like, yeah. They're like, can we buy it from you? And I'm like, well, I said, how about $200? I said, it's $50 cheaper than what's online. He's like, no, that's too much. I said, this is signed. I said, this is actually signed. So I kept it. I'm like, nah, I'm not going to give it away.
Yeah. What that was a sign for you to keep it.
Yeah.
If you're not willing to spend the $200 and it's a signed copy.
Yeah.
So let's circle back to the start here. How can people help out, and what can we all do to get Summerwind back to its original splendor?
Right now we're looking for somebody to pretty much back the project. The owners are actually willing to help out a considerable amount now, which is kind of nice because they sold some of their stuff. They had a couple properties, so there is a GoFundMe page on Summerwind Mansion Society or Summerwind Restoration Society on Facebook, and you can actually go on there and donate as well. On the donation, we're not looking for a lot right now. We're just looking for maybe to start on the basement, but for the most part, we're waiting on some really good solid backers, which we're hoping that we're gonna have a chance to find here in the near future. And we got one on board right now, but I can't say too much about that. But a lot of people have said, hey, we'll come out there, we'll pound nails, we'll come out and work on the floors, we'll work on the paneling, we'll do whatever is needed, and we'll do it for next to nothing or even free, just to get a chance to put some work in on a mansion that has a history like it does. And, that's always welcome as well. I mean, there's a lot of metal out there from when it was, demolished, when the fire was. There's a lot of metal, those old, what do you want to call it? Those old, not furnaces, those heaters and those, help me out here. Those.
Just a wood burning stove?
Yeah, no, the ones that were in the wall, those old fashioned like water heaters that you find.
Radiators.
Radiators, yeah, there's a whole bunch. There's probably about 5 of them laying up there, kind of rotting away. I mean, if someone had a good hand, they could probably fix them up and making them up into something unique and sell them as antiques. But we're always looking for someone to come up there and just take the metal away. We don't care. You can keep the money, whatever. So, stuff like that. So there's always ways to help. Following us on Summerwind Restoration Society on Facebook, you can get a hold of us on there and talk to us live, and any questions that you might have, we might be able to answer. If you want to donate, you can get a hold of us there as well. And then also FoxValleyGhostHunters.com. We post a lot of stuff there as well for events that we have out there as for coming up for this next summer here.
So the Facebook and the FoxValleyGhostHunters.com is probably the 2 best places to find you guys?
Yep. And like I say, all it takes is one person to have a love for a haunted house to say, hey, I'd like to be involved with that, and let's do this. So. Well,
we were joking in the beginning. You were like, if I had the money, I would do it in a heartbeat, and I don't blame you.
Yeah, I'd probably say, hey, would you like to sell the property? I'll buy it, and you'll make history if you're involved in this, because it has a history just on its own. So I guarantee you'll be featured in the paper and in probably most upcoming movies and any events about the place, let alone being a part of it.
Yeah, and to be honest, Joshua was the one that contacted me on the onset. Fantastic guy, the guy that's helping you guys out with promoting this restoration. And I only clicked on probably 4 of the links. And guys, there is so much to read on the Summerwind Mansion. It is a fascinating place. What a history.
Yeah, just make sure that when you click on a lot of those places, there's a couple that are over. There's even a bunch of people that have come to me from other countries, like Italy and stuff, and did stories on Summerwind as well. There's a couple out there that don't even have the right pictures of Summerwind. They got an old hospital that was in some foreign country as the front of Summerwind, and it's really not Summerwind. So you got to watch out what you're looking for online as well. But for the most part, 90% of the articles out there is the real Summerwind. There's only a couple that are not the real thing.
Yeah, I think I might have seen one of those, actually.
Yeah.
Nothing that Joshua sent me, but I was doing my own little search separate. I'm like, I don't think that's the same place.
Yeah, there's one that has like an old hospital that has I bet you it has 190 windows on the front of it or something, and that's not Summerwind.
You're like, nope, not even close.
I tried telling them that. I sent them a message saying, hey, you got your information wrong. Well, what do you know about it? I said, more than you think.
I've been there, thanks.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, that'd be my idea to, like I say, if it's a bed and breakfast, I would definitely be doing paranormal tours there as well.
Yeah, so and you know what? That's a perfect segue into a question to kind of end the whole thing. This gets rebuilt, and what does Craig do? Does Craig work there? What part do you play? Because you are a huge part of getting this thing back to being built to the original splendor.
Well, I know the owner's in their health condition right now with her just having a stroke. had mentioned to me a couple times that she'd like to see if I would want to run the bed and breakfast. So.
Oh boy, that is fantastic. So you would be there all the time.
I would be there all the time, and like I said, I love giving tours. So definitely be a person that would do a lot of tours there as well. I mean, not only can you stay there, but you can do a tour with a professional paranormal researcher. I
mean, considering all the EVPs that you guys got, and there's nothing even there right now.
No.
I would agree with your assessment earlier when I asked you, is this going to ramp up or is it going to calm down after you guys rebuild it? I think it'll completely ramp up.
Oh, definitely. I would definitely say so.
And you guys have the original blueprints. Yeah.
Yep, original blueprints. You're most likely putting the lodge right over the original. Well, the foundation won't be there anymore, but you're basically putting it over the spot that the original was. So.
But are you guys going to try to? I mean, you had the blueprints down to where every closet and room was, and you're going to go off those blueprints, or are you going to kind of modernize it?
It's going to be modernized. What we want the outside to look pretty much exactly like Summerwind looked, but the inside's going to have to be all up to code. And if you're making it into a bed and breakfast rather than a fishing lodge, you're going to have more codes too. So
that's true. You got to run the old the sprinkler lines through the ceilings and everything like that, right?
Yeah, definitely. I don't want it burning down again.
Yeah, and speaking of that, and not to put a dark cloud over the whole thing, but are you guys worried at all that you get this thing up and running and there's some kind of sabotage again? If you do think that the city did something all those years ago?
I don't think anymore. My only concern would be a lot of people have given us tremendous support just in going up there, just from the town of Land O'Lakes, saying, hey, you're welcome to go up there and do these events. Just make sure you don't have anybody camp on the property because of the permits and stuff. And there's one person that was trying to say, hey, they're not allowed to be there, and the town of Land O'Lakes stood up for us. So definitely a lot of support there. The only thing I would be concerned about is in the building process, someone would have to be there to make sure there's no people trespassing up there and trying to steal stuff, thinking that, hey, is this Summerwind, or is this, they may not know what we're trying to do. So
more haunted bits to sell on eBay.
Yeah, pretty much.
Don't want that. That's when you have to go out there and I guess camp out there full time, huh?
Pretty much, yeah. Someone would have to be there, probably with like a trailer on the property to keep the people off there.
Yep, just be close enough to hear any riffraff that might come along.
Yeah, I mean, you can't even put no trespassing signs up there because the people that come up there to trespass rip them off and toss them in the woods.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, I guess if you're doing it, you don't really give a crap about the signs, huh?
No. Mm-mm.
Well, Craig, thank you so much for joining me. I'll do all I can on this end for Summerwind Mansion, and maybe someday I can get out there. I would love to do that. And I don't even